Hello everyone, hope you're all well and welcome back. In today's video we have this Xbox Series X to repair, which apparently has a no power issue. So as I say, when you plug this Xbox Series X in and hit the power button, you get absolutely nothing at all. It is completely dead. Nothing from the sync button, nothing from the eject button, completely dead. So this one has already been opened. As you can see, someone's pulled the screw straight through the label at the back. So it'll be interesting to see what we find. Right, so let's get this one opened. I won't film opening the Xbox Series X. There's plenty of videos out there. So let's jump to me having it dismantled. I've just taken the back panel off and this one really has been dismantled. I've disconnected these cables, but there should be a black little plastic cover here which covers the optical drive. I've taken these screws out and dismantled this, but yeah, it's a shame. I wonder what else is going to be missing from inside, but let's get in a little bit deeper and find out. Right, so as I say, there's loads of screws missing, which is really unfortunate. I've got some spare screws, but that's not an issue, but it's just slightly annoying to have some bits missing. I'm just hoping that the optical drive that was in here is the correct one, which is married to this board. So this set did actually come from another repair store, which is a little bit disappointing to see the state of it. You would have hoped they would have put the screws back into it, but they couldn't fix it. Anyhow, let's do the first initial few tests. Right, so let's unplug the power from the motherboard, like so. Let's just pop off that so it's a bit easier for us to get to. Let's bring up our multimeter on the screen. Right, with our multimeter in voltage, DC voltage mode, we're going to pop in some power, check to see if we are getting a 12 volt output from the power supply. Do we get 12 volts? 11.9, that's close enough. Let's just buzz across all of these pins, because there's different phases on this power supply. Make sure all of the phases are outputting. Yep, looked good so far. Yep. And then, yep, 12 volts. And then just check the power. There's another small power cable here, which is power for the Southbridge board. That also should be 12 volts as well. So let's just check that. Yep, 12 volts. Next thing to check is, let's see if we've got a short on the 12 volt rail. So we're going to pop our multimeter into continuity mode. That is the mode that beeps when you touch the probes, like so. And literally all we're going to do is just come down here to the power connector on the motherboard and just put one of our probes on one of the pins and the other probe on the other pin. Looks like we've got a short, so let's just double check that. So if you put one probe on ground and then put your probe on the positive pin, we have got a 12 volt short on the main APU board. Let's just check if we've got a short up here on the Southbridge board. So exactly the same thing again. Just pop in your probe into the pins. So that's ground and that side is positive. So we don't, sorry, my hand's in the way. So this side here is positive. So we've got no short there and that side is ground. So we need to get down to the APU board. So let's just quickly do that. Right, so here we are, down to the board with the APU on it. Can't see anything jumping out at me that looks obvious, but let's just double check, right? So meter's still in continuity mode. Let's put our black probe on ground. And then we just quickly pop our probe onto the positive side, which is this side of the power connector. it's beeping. So we've definitely got a dead short, right? So, I mean, you've got a dead short on the 12 volt rail. It's definitely not going to power up. So there's not much point in actually checking any of these other points because they're all going to be shorted, right? Because basically 12 volt is shorting. That means anything else, any 1.8 or 1 volt, 3.3 or 5 volts, they're all going to be shorted out, right? So what I think we will do is just get under the microscope and just do a bit more of a visual inspection around the board and see what we can find. This is where the SSD is, but what I'm mostly interested in is all of these phases along here. Can't see anything that's jumping out at me. Is that flux there? Nope. That's just residue from when it's manufactured. As I say, at the minute we're just doing a quick visual inspection, looking around the entire board. These Mosfets are prone to failure, so it could be one of those Mosfets along there. It could also be a capacitor. Worst case, it might actually be the APU itself. So that looks like someone's put some additional thermal paste on there because it's going all over my desk. Let's have a quick look around here. Anything down here which jumps out? All those capacitors look okay. Again, there's some more Mosfets along here which are prone to failure. There's nothing which is blown, you know, a hole in the board, which is a good sign. Yeah. Okay, so nothing jumping out at me around the board. What's that there? No, that's just residue again from the thermal pads. What's that there? So looking at this here, there looks to be someone has done some soldering to these capacitors here. Look at that. See this end cap here? It doesn't look very straight. It's got soldering in it. And here, under this cap, there's the little plastic base for it, which is melted, right? So someone's been playing around here previously. Along here. But that capacitor is connected. And the problem is you can't really test it while it is in line because we've got a 12 volt short, so these are going to be shorted anyhow. Yeah. So it doesn't really tell us anything. I wonder why they were replaced though. So what I think we will do in this case, if we are very careful, we can inject some voltage to see if we get any heat spots on the board. So let's go back to the main overhead camera. Right, so as I say, we can inject some voltage. We need to be really careful though, right? So if, for example, there is a Mosfet which is shorted, right? If you inject 12 volts in here, you know, with a bench power supply, what will happen, what potentially could happen, is those 12 volts get shooted straight through the blown Mosfet into your APU, and your APU is then dead. So you need to be really careful doing this. If we need to start injecting with a high voltage, right, so we'll start off with a really low voltage, like half a volt, or maybe just under 1 volt, and see if there's any heat spots. We'll get the thermal camera out. But what we can do, we can actually isolate the APU by taking off some of these coils. And removing them. That means then we can then inject a little bit more higher voltage. But first of all, let's just inject, you know, as I say, round about just below 1 volt first of all. We will put our power supply clamp on ground. So we'll come in with our thermal camera and our positive probe. My bench power supply is set at 0.8 volts, so really low voltage, not to do any damage to the APU. As I say, this right hand side of pins here, that's the positive supply, 12 volt positive supply in. So we're just going to come in with our thermal camera, add the voltage, and then see if we can see any heat spots that come up on the board. I think that's my hand. Anything over here? Doesn't look like it. Actually, what's that there? Right, I'm just trying to get you a better angle so you can actually see this. So, adding the power again. See that heat spot? Remove the power, add the power again. So that is one of the Mosfets, I think. Yeah, it's that end Mosfet. So that definitely needs replacing. It's that end Mosfet just there. So let's get under the microscope and just remove that first one and see if our short's gone first of all. Let's just add a little bit of flux to the Mosfet, and then we'll come in with our heat gun. So heat is at 450 degrees. Right, so the MOSFET's removed, so we have got our multimeter in continuity mode still. Black probe on ground. Let's just check these caps here. So that's ground, it should beep, and this shouldn't beep, which is good. Let's just check these other ones as well. Yep, all good. All right, let's just go back to the power connector over here. Again, black probe is on ground. This side should beep, this left-hand side. Right-hand side shouldn't beep, good. So not beeping at all. So our short has gone. Right, now we need to replace the MOSFET and hope that there's no damage to the APU. Right, so that's our MOSFET replaced. It has our short reappeared, or is it still gone? Good, not there. Perfect. Okay, just quick double check. Let's head over to the power connector. Again, black probe on ground and no beep. Good, right, okay, so let's get everything put back together and give things a bit of a test. Right, so there you go, all put back together again. Let's just plug in some power. And there you go, working perfectly. Right, so there you go, quick video just to show you how to fix a Xbox Series X with a no power issue. Now, I need to give this a good cleanup, which I will do off camera. It's just a shame that the repair company that's tried repairing this previously didn't notice that MOSFET had blown. As you saw, they tried to replace a couple of capacitors, which is understandable because if one of the MOSFETs shorts like this one did, it pretty much shorts out the entire board. So you'll be looking around the board trying to find a short, and unless you've got a thermal camera like the one I use, then it's pretty hard to find exactly what component is shorting because pretty much all the components will be shorted out on the board. Luckily, they don't know, well, at least I don't think they injected voltage, and they didn't cause any harm to the APU, which was good. Just remember, if you do this and inject voltage, always use a really low voltage, less than 1 volt, when you first do your power injection. Otherwise you do risk blowing the APU. Anyhow, thanks very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did find it useful, please consider giving us a thumbs up. It really does help us out. And please also consider subscribing to the channel. We're posting videos every Sunday now. So please subscribe to the channel and you will see our video next week. Thanks very much for watching. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye for now.